What a morning. What a mouse.
Hello, welcome to the Backpack Show, everyone. Friday, January 14th.
That's true. Day after my little brother's birthday, Tom.
So, since I got into the Atlassian ecosystem working for AppFire, I've heard one name spoken with reverence,
Oh
and it
my
wasn't
gosh.
yours. It was
Rachel
Rachel
Wright.
Wright.
Rachel Wright.
She's the Jira OG, they call it, like the Jira Nomad. We're going to talk to her, but she's been in the biz for a long time, helping IT teams do a much better job for their organizations. Look, people are already showing up. They want to
She's
hear
the
from.
Marsha,
Hi, Michael.
of Atlassian space, and that's for damn sure. But there's so much more to this conversation because so for decades, bloggers and media makers of all kinds have had that dream of how can I just get in an RV, drive around, be an influencer, and cover a space. And Rachel absolutely has the formula. So many people are so full of baloney. But this
turns out you just got to really know your stuff.
Yeah, and like get involved in a space where there's like money if you know some stuff.
She's got like 7 LinkedIn courses on Jira things. Super smart.
Hi everyone, Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
I think I saw my biological father, Steve Brogan, was here.
I think so. Oh, I have to thank a previous guest that we had on, Ariana Lauren from Cowichan makes this tattoo care lotion. It's freaking amazing. So Cowichan it's made with like herbs and things that grow natively where she is. And holy mackerel, what a better experience it is healing a tattoo with this stuff. So anyway, I did not get paid to say that. I actually bought the lotion my own self. It's worth it. Just saying.
But speaking of getting paid, some hooligans are still in that. So let's thank them.
Okay.
I just realized I got to dump your like 3 words thing. Hey, look, you want to run a podcast? You can, an audio podcast. That's what some of the kids do. Castos.com is a pretty good host. Our friend Matt Medeiros works over there. He's the reason I switched from the one podcast host that I've used since 2006. And I did it to be nice, but oh my gosh, Castos is a great app, works easy.
You hate changing things.
I hate changing things. How do you be a futurist and still get grumpy about having to move from one tech to another?
Somehow you pull it off.
I'll ask Rachel that question. Hey, you want to make a show like this? Easy as pie. Just go to StreamYard. cbrogan.me/StreamYard.
Get your own brilliant nomadic Jira specialist.
Yeah. Points to anybody except for Mike Vizdos who knows what Jira is in our audience.
We'll explain it real quick, like.
Yeah, we'll do that. So once a long time ago, there was a search engine, and then it took over the world, and then it decided to elbow its business on top of other people's businesses and screw with them. And here came a competitor, Presearch. You can go to presearch.com and you can stick it to the man. Not only that, it's a pretty darn good search engine. I used it for about 4 months straight.
Without
the only
logging
thing that
in.
shook me off the game, don't talk to me. There's crypto coins involved, and if I had logged in, I'd be a billionaire in Presearch at this point.
I know.
But I went 4 full months, and the only thing that got me off of Presearch was I got a new laptop, and I just never moved it back by mistake. But Presearch.com, it is a great search engine. Presearch.com. Hi, Kate. Kate showed up today too. Good to see you. Patrick, and Leslie and Annette. Wow, what a team! What a good gang of here. So we're gonna grab Rachel because
we'll turn up for Rachel.
Yeah, I know. Who'd have thought? So Kerry and I both work for a company that's in the Atlassian ecosystem. If you've never heard of Atlassian, that's okay. There are a bunch of weirdo hooligans that started a company out in Australia, and then thereafter started taking on the huge world of enterprise SaaS computer technology. So
when you've got big teams trying to work on software or something together, and it's like, how is this going to work? Like herding cats. They make tools for that.
But like they would compete against, huge companies like Oracle and huge companies like IBM and all that. And they'd be a bunch of open source weenies. And it's just like, it shouldn't have gone this way. So, but really, Rachel's like one of the most successful people to capitalize on this in some interesting ways.
So Rachel was certified like the second you could be certified, and she's been in it for a lot longer than that. So we should get her out here.
Let's drag her in. Rachel Wright, could you explain better than us to these poor hooligans what Jira is?
Absolutely. So it's a fantastic tool to pretty much track anything these days. It started out as a tracking tool for IT software and teams that develop code, and it's morphed into a helpful tool for anybody who's got to track a to-do list. So I track my personal to-do list in these tools. I track my travel schedule in these tools. Like, I'm a super fan.
It's fair to say that the two main products that Atlassian launched, Jira and then Confluence, which is a wiki system. I say that and people are like, 2003.
They think you're talking about Star Wars stuff.
Right. When you talk about those two particular apps, it is fair to say that it's like how people use Excel in some ways, because they've stretched it way beyond the bounds of what these tools probably should have been able to do. What are some of your favorite applications that are written in the Jira ecosystem right now?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. And it's funny because AppFire has bought them all up recently.
I know, we own them all, so.
I know. So it's really funny how that works out. But there's so many great ways to extend the software. I always tell people, if there's a feature that you don't want, or that you don't have, somebody has already developed it, and you can just plug it in, and it's 2 clicks and you're done, and it's wonderful. And then of course you can build your own with some custom code and the REST API. So lots of potential.
But it's really juicy stuff. So it's like you have several different things and you want to automatically change things. Like in, say, Jira like runs a bunch of stuff for your whole team and you want to automatically change things. There's apps where you can like whiteboard and then automatically it updates all your things, like in Jira, your tasks and issues and things. I mean, it's pretty juicy. So when you started out in this in the first place, how much less juicy was it? Like, how much better is it now? And how do you keep up with it all?
Actually, it's changed a lot. The web's changed a lot, the capabilities, right? I remember I was a web developer before this, so I remember our capabilities. I mean, nothing was dynamic in the beginning, right? We all had web pages. We didn't have applications as much. But now everything's online and people need tools to help them track what they're doing. So Atlassian's tools have come a long, long way, and there's really nothing you can't do in them these days.
Rodney's here.
Hey, Rodney.
Hi, Rodney.
One of the things I was going to, when Carol talked about Excel, I think of Carol when I think of what Atlassian did that was really smart. They open sourced everything from way back in the day and said, look, we made this. We know you're smarter than us. Go make some other thises. And we don't want to tackle everything. We want the opportunity to, build a platform where everyone can come and participate. You've been around for a while. What made you think other people were going to want to see this space covered? I mean, Carol is a super nerd for Excel. If there were a Rachel Wright for her, they'd be out there showing really cool macro tools every single week or something like that. What made you think this is what I want to cover?
Well, so I like Excel too, right? I like anything computer related, anything web development related. But this was the first tool that I found that I actually love to use. And that's different, right? And a lot of times you join a company and you have to use whatever 10-year-old tools they've installed that are barely functional. So I saw this tool and I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. We can actually do whatever we want instead of whatever the limitations of what we were using was. So just so many possibilities and ways to do it that we never thought of doing it before. And then once your data is in there, it's really easy to get it out. It's easy to search for what you're looking for. It's easy to see what all your team members are working on. And you don't have to do any fancy coding or, be a super smart tech person to benefit from it.
Talk about how kids grow up and have jobs that didn't exist. Like when we were kids, when you were a kid, what did you think you wanted to be? And how did this happen? Like, how did you end up where you are?
Well, I had a Commodore 64 when I was a kid, if you even remember the little 4x4 screen. So that's how I got into computers, and I missed it.
I mean, that's about what the screens are now.
Well, true, that's true. Now it's a phone, right? But I would stay up late in my bedroom and I would write DOS commands, and I didn't know how to do anything really. But my mom taught me word processing, and as I went through school, we're using computers more and more. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was one Mac in the classroom, and now every kid has a laptop or a phone that does more than a laptop. So I've always been interested. Yeah. I've always loved technology. And then actually in high school, I took a non-credit class where you taught yourself web development, and it expanded really quickly from there.
But so they had that course. I know, I'm looking at the
Commodore Love and the Trash 80.
A Radio Shack.
there's a different set of humans. Like I said in the intro, there's a lot of people out there who were like, early to the days of blogging and said, this is great. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be able to like make my life around this sort of a thing. And that didn't turn out. And a lot of those people work at Best Buy now. So how did you build a business around what you wanted to do covering this? I mean, because there's a million nerds who want to talk about how cool it is to be able to write something in a language that they care about and on a platform that they love. How did you get to do that and make money?
Well, that wasn't the goal. I should say that. It ended up being something successful, but it was a big challenge, a big risk, this might not work out. So you better have a backup plan kind of thing, right? So I started my first company right out of high school. And I started my second company in, I don't know, 2000 and something. I don't remember. And then I went on the road in 2015. So I already had the company up and running. I already had enough of a level of success that I felt like I could take a risk and change something in my personal life. And for me, I ended up changing my personal life and my professional life. I wouldn't go back and do it differently. This has been such an incredible experience. And I would love to tell people that if you want to do something different, nothing's stopping you. There's a couple little challenges, like how do you get a good internet connection? But there's no real things that you can't overcome. Our life on the road is fantastic, and we're never going home.
Yeah, we need to talk more about that. So there's one thing. So you upheave your whole life and decide you're going to go in an RV and just bump around, right? Like every few months or more,
Yep.
you pick a new place. So I have questions. Where did that come from first? And then secondly, do you have like an itinerary planned out, or are you just like, when it's time to move, do you then like throw darts at a map or something?
Oh, great question. So, well, the first part, I had a friend who was RVing, and she had her own business, and I said, "Oh, well, that's interesting, but I would never want to do that. That's something retired people do." And then years later, here I am on the road too. So I've been on the road for 7 years. We were living in the same place, and I was just kind of wanting some new scenery. But we couldn't even pick a state we both wanted. Like I love Arizona. My partner Chris, he loves Florida. And we were just like, well, we don't even know what state, forget what city. So one day we just had this wild idea. What if we just toured the US until we found a city we like? And it's been incredible. Now, in the beginning, we moved every week, which was insane. Some people drive the whole country in a day. I'm not that kind of person. Now, 7 years later, we move about once a quarter. That's more our speed. Now that we've figured out what we like, figured out where we like to be, we're not moving so often.
I feel like they made a John Krasinski movie like that, wasn't it? Away We Go, where they were like, let's just try different cities and figure out where we want to. But they weren't in an RV. Like they
Yeah, you could do it in a hotel. You could do it in the back of
forget the
your
logistics.
van or something. Yeah.
Has there been a spot where you were tempted to just stay?
So there's 3 spots in Florida that we just really, really love. And since the pandemic, we've just been going from those 3 spots and making a giant circle and sticking around in Florida. But we did get a chance to do a circle around the entire US with the only goal of avoiding the winter. I'll be anywhere that it doesn't snow and I'm not cold.
Yeah, Deb is impressed by weekly.
Yeah, it's too much. But you
Chloe
learn
loves
that.
the idea. Chloe's in Scotland. Scotland's gorgeous.
Oh, fantastic.
RV around Scotland. I don't know if you're looking to like try another country. Scotland's
Maybe.
very pretty.
So the only other nomads that we're pals with are Master Distiller Marianne Eves and her circus ringleader husband, Kevin, don't know his last name, can't remember.
Bernardo's. It's Bernardo's Circus, right?
Bernardo's Circus, right, with a V. I was so not close. He was the youngest ringmaster for Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey when that was still an outfit. But one runs a circus and one is a distiller, a bourbon maker. It's a little different when you're software nerds. What are the good
you
and the
get an
bad?
RV, just the two of you. Like they have Marianne and Kevin have a whole train of
they have
circus people that they have to bring with them.
It looks
and
like
their
a
2
train.
babies.
It's crazy.
Anyway,
and
sorry,
babies.
Just saying.
So, but what's the difference and what's good and bad of running like a software and media business out of RV?
There's some small challenges, but I would say that the small challenges definitely are outweighed by the benefits. And the freedom that you have. Like if we don't like somewhere, which doesn't happen very often, but if we don't like somewhere, we could just pick up and go. If our neighbors are a little loud, we'll just move a little bit. Like it's total freedom. Some of the challenges are, well, there's not a lot of space, and that's okay. Like what we have is big enough for 2 people, no problem. But if you had an entire family, you'd probably need something a little bigger than what we have. So like right now I'm sitting at the dinette, which is the table that you're supposed to eat at, but that's my desk. So, you have to, find things that work in your physical space. And then of course, the biggest challenge for me personally is finding an internet connection that allows me to do my work, because I can't just like have a quick connection for checking email, right? I need to like do streaming things and record things for my courses. And, so that's a challenge, but that's workable. And I've got a lot of strategies I can share if anybody's interested in that.
Now, what does your partner do? You're like, here's a milk crate and a board. I'm going to put it outside, and that's where you're going to do your work.
Yeah, so we have a little bunkhouse in the back, and that's kind of his office. And there's a table that folds up, so he sits back there, and he has businesses of his own, and he helps me with sales and business development as well.
In the process of all this, are there times, well, I mean, I guess no signal is an easy one. That's probably the number one. Are there other things where, you're suddenly in the scenario where you've got to replace a transmission or something like that? Are there those moments where it's just, you just kind of get the inkling of, if I just had a strip mall office, I would be happy?
Well, there's no T1 internet connection out here, that's for sure. So that's just something you deal with. But we had 3 tire blowouts on our very first trip. So
Oh.
I tell and then, the tires looked fine. The mechanics said they look fine. You should be good. But they had sun damage, and you can't always see that. So I tell anybody who's going to start out on a new journey like this or a new venture, wait till 3 bad things happen before you give up. Because if we had given up after the first 3 things, and not all 3 are the tires, by the way, but if we'd given up, we would have never known how fantastic this lifestyle is, how wonderful the people are. I mean, we go places where I can eat food I like and Chris can fish. It's like we get the best of everything.
Had some people in the comments. Deb says multi-purpose furniture and space will come in handy. Do they do that? They're making like multimodal furniture and stuff now that you can
Mhm.
turn into things. Are you into
Yeah.
that, or does that feel like, to me, sometimes I feel like, wait, which 5 things is this? Like I get
Well,
confused.
so it's interesting. You have to find out what's important to you. And when we were shopping, so we did 5 months of research. I'm not a just throw a dart at the map kind of person. Like you said earlier, we plan everything out. I book things 6 months in advance, and I track it all in one of Atlassian's tools called Confluence. But you got to decide what's important to you. And for me, it was 2 simple things. I did not want to sleep on the table, because a lot of RVs, you convert the table to a bed every night. I didn't want that. I wanted a real bed. And I wanted a shower. Those were the 2 things that were important to me. And I've since learned that you don't really need all the things that you think you need in life.
What'd you give up on, the bed or the shower?
No, I have both. I don't have a tub. I miss a tub. I don't have that. That's the only thing. But like, you don't need all the stuff that you think you need, all the possessions that you think you need. And, when you live in a small space, space is a premium and weight's an issue. So if something new comes in, something else has to come out. So if I buy something that weighs 30 pounds, I got to lose 30 pounds. You can't just have the big jar of mayonnaise from Costco anymore. You have to be strategic about how
The
you're
little
going to use that
packets.
space. Yes.
Well,
But the
if you
trade-offs are worth
stop
it.
eating that big jar of mayonnaise, you'll lose the 30
Yes.
pounds.
See, it works out. Absolutely.
I'm just
The only
messing with
time
you.
you sleep on a table, says Chip, is after you pass out after enjoying one too many. Oh, Chip.
Elizabeth, so Deb has this one: patience, get more data before you give up. Love that. Elizabeth had a point I liked up earlier. It's very impressive to both live tiny and work together in the same business in space. Why don't one of you have like a good black eye or something going on right now? Like where
Actually,
haven't there been the screaming spittle induced fights or whatever?
Carol
Well,
wants
it's
to tow
really
her tub with
funny.
her.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be really nice. It's funny because we always joke that when people are backing into their camp spot, that's when the divorces happen, right? People are yelling at each other. Somebody hits the water and water's everywhere. Somebody does something that the other doesn't like. And it's entertaining to watch. We've never really had that problem. We have walkie-talkies, and I'm not any good at it, but Chris is very good at it, and I just make sure he doesn't hit anything. So for us, it's fantastic. I will say to people, if you don't get along at home, the idea that you're going to get along on the road in a smaller space is probably not accurate. But we have always gotten along and never had problems. So it's great for us. But lots of families do it too. You know, lots of people with kids, they homeschool, and it's a great experience for the kids. They get to grow up in different environments, meet different people. And what a rich education that, you know, that's possible with moving around frequently.
Depending some of the places you stop, I imagine it's very educational.
in all ways, yes.
Let's swing back to the other part of the conversation, Jira and classes and all that sort of a thing. Where are you in that journey? And like, what are the courses that are still your bread and butter? What's new that you're developing? Like, oh, well, it's a 22. Now I got to come up with this new thing. Like, or is there going to just be endless content because no one has captured this market the way you have?
Well, I kind of do a lot of things, actually. I started by writing a book. And honestly, that's a great way to get into an industry you're interested in. And I wrote the book because I was having trouble getting my organization to have proper processes and use tools in the right way. It wasn't even about the tool itself. It was about the way the organization was or wasn't working. So I said, I can't be the only person who has this struggle. Every business has these same struggles, especially when there's rapid growth. So I'm going to take everything I've learned about how this software can help and put it in an IT book. So that's kind of how I got my start. And I thought, my mom's going to read this. Nobody's going to read this. Nobody's going to buy this. But people actually benefited from it, and I was super happy about that. So after that, I did some consulting. And then now I'm kind of doing what's my very favorite thing to do is train people. And I have an opportunity from LinkedIn to post my courses there. And I just hit 53,000 unique students, which, 100 would have been amazing, right?
So people might think, oh, I've never heard of Atlassian, so it can't be anything. It's huge.
And you're going to probably work for a company in the future that has it one way or another. It's penetrated every market. And again, like I use it at home to track what I'm doing, right? Otherwise, I don't know where we're going next, right? I don't know what park we booked at. I don't know what we agreed to pay. It's all got to be logged somewhere, right?
It's one stat that I had pulled for AppFire specifically, which we account for 1 in every 5 apps in the marketplace. As far as sales go, we have 20% of the sales in the marketplace. We are also there's an AppFire something in 55% of the Fortune 500 is what we figured out. So a lot of times, that thing though, I'll say Atlassian and people go, who? Like they're never going to get AppFire. It's like, I start by saying, imagine there's kind of an Apple app store that you've never heard of, that only business to business people have heard of. Okay. Imagine we're like Angry Birds and Clash of Clans and Wordle, and a bunch of things. That's AppFire. And they're like, oh, and that's it. Like no more conversation. Like they don't want to, that was enough. How do you do that? Like what's your cocktail party warm up of getting people to understand Atlassian, Jira, and the whole space?
It's so funny because for my first business, I had a great elevator speech, right? I had all that down. For this business, I don't. I tell people I help other companies with their IT software, and I just leave it at that. Because at the campground, nobody cares about that, right? They all want to talk about what they did and what fish they caught, and nobody wants to talk about work. So I just give them the quick IT, their eyes glaze over, and every now and then I'll get somebody who knows IT. And actually once I was in a laundromat, because you got to go to a laundromat when you don't have your own washers in your RV, and somebody had an Atlassian shirt on, and it was the old school logo from like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And I thought it was so funny. And I walked up to this guy and I said, okay, I'm not a stalker, but I need to understand your shirt. And he had no idea what I was talking about. I think he just got a promo shirt from something somewhere, and it was laundry day. So I wear my Atlassian shirts every day, but for him, I guess it was laundry day, and that's what he had on. And conversation ended there, and he probably thought it was very strange.
Everyone's congratulating you on your accomplishments with your
thank
courses,
you so much.
Deb and Chloe. And Chip says, if you're not using Jira today, when you finally start, you can say at last.
Nice. Very good.
Oh, Chip.
I love
He doesn't get
puns.
to break out the Jira humor that much. We're
I
going to
love
have to give
puns. That's
him,
great.
yeah,
Jira
we're gonna have to give
jokes.
him that. Yeah.
Jira jokes.
But there's so many lessons that people can take from just, learning to work remotely from what you've done. We think we have challenges. We work remotely in a house, like wired internet and all this other stuff. You're taking it on the road every few months. How are you making that work? And how can you help other people who are new to remote settle in and be productive?
Sure. So I would say start small, even if it's like 1 day a week working from home, and then transition to more days and finally transition to full time at home and deal with all those challenges, because those challenges will, in some ways, be magnified on the road because you have less options. So let me give you an example. Yesterday, I had a meeting actually with one of your colleagues. I launched the meeting software, ready to go. Everything's great. I was early, and then the internet dies. What do you do? So for me, I have backups of backups, right? I have a primary internet source that uses one specific cellular network. My secondary source uses a totally different cellular network, and that's on purpose. So we have redundancy. I've got a third device that works with any cell tower, works internationally, but it's $10 a day, so I don't use it very often. And then worst case scenario, I get on my cell phone, and that's what I had to do yesterday. And that's not ideal. It's impossible to share a screen, but that was the reality. And the other idea is, go down the road to a coffee shop. So, and I'll tell you, the campground Wi-Fi is never usable. If you are going to run a business, you have to bring your own. But there's affordable ways to do it. And sometimes things happen and people understand, and sometimes the bandwidth is glitchy, and we work through it, and it's not been a big problem.
But they can be overcome. It's more like you have that
Mhm.
one problem and then you learn how to solve it. And the next time you have it, you solve it
Right,
again.
right.
And then it'll be a new problem, so
Right,
it's
right.
kind
And
of
the
like,
whole last week, I've been helping everybody at camp with their devices, right? Like somebody said to me, "You're the internet girl, right?" And I was like, "Okay, well,
Yeah.
they're worse nicknames."
you're like, yes, I'm the internet girl.
Yeah, yeah.
See,
So I set
I've
somebody
been,
up that
yeah. I've been thinking about that since you last said you did IT stuff. I was like, there's no way. Like the minute you say that crap, next thing you know, you're the connectivity person. You're the how
yeah.
did I delete Safari off my iPhone? You're that
Oh, right,
person.
right.
I would tell him I'm an arms dealer or something. Like that is the worst thing to tell him is computers is
You're
what I was
right. You're
thinking.
right. Yeah, and I'm fixing wireless printers. Like, I'm not a hardware person really. I've always been a software person, but I can do a little bit. So when I can, I help. Yeah, you're right.
Carol says COVID has reduced the perceived obstacles. So many people are now working from home that thought it was impossible in 2019.
Absolutely.
Do you think people think it's impossible just because they haven't done it before and they can't envision the problems and the solutions to them and all that? Like, what is it
Well,
how did you overcome it when you decided to go super remote? You
so I
must have
think
been nervous.
a little bit, yeah. I think the market and the perception has changed. I know years ago when I started working from home, I've been working from home for like 15 years. The perception was you're sitting there watching soap operas and you're doing the laundry and you're not actually doing any work, right? And I think if there's any silver lining from the pandemic, it's that we've proven that things can get done when people are not face to face. There's some challenges to work through, but it doesn't mean the business stops necessarily. And for me, it was all right, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this for a month. I'm not going to buy a huge, expensive Class A bus. I'm going to buy something that's affordable, see if we like this, something that if this goes very wrong, it's not going to financially ruin me. And then I had a backup plan where I put some furniture in storage. And I said, if we don't like this, we'll stop, we'll rent an apartment, then we'll figure out what to do. Because I have backups of backups. So I say that I'm not very
You have a
I'm
go
risk
bag and a
adverse.
safe house.
Yeah. No, I'm risk adverse. It's funny because people say, well, you don't like risk, but you started your own business and you went out on the road. That sounds like risk to me. But for me, like I felt more comfortable because I researched it. I understood what I was getting into. I interviewed people who had been doing it. We asked all of our questions. And then I knew I had a fallback if this wasn't going to work. And our family, one person says, well, we'll give you a month and you'll be back. And another person said, a year. This is fantastic. We love it. Not going back.
Are you going to get a tour bus though? Like now that you know you've been doing it for years? No.
So I'm a minimalist. My style is not fancy at all.
But
We
you could
just
have
have
a big
something.
tour bus with some major internet. He could have like an office at one end, and you could have the office at the other end. You could have
You're
a
right, we
bathtub in the
could.
middle.
Yeah, we could.
Right.
People also do creative things like a co-working space in the city they're visiting. They'll go in there and that will be their office. So you don't have to work from the rig. You can also, people will travel to the client's location, park in their parking lot, go in, have their meetings. I mean, there's all sorts of creative ways. You don't have to like go full force your very first day. Start out with small chunks, figure something out. Like I know when we first started, we didn't understand anything about power, water, or sewer. So we just took one at a time. We said, okay, power is most important. Let's figure out how that works. I'm not even going to worry about hooking up water. Once we got comfortable with the power, then we go hook up the water. And you just keep kind of going like that.
Rodney says, reminds me of a tweet, someone's management. We've had our best year ever in spite of working remote, but we need to return to the office because remote work doesn't work.
Exactly. Yep.
Rodney also said, I think every IT person has been the internet person at some point. That's like, Chris, that's how you were like the social media guy. That's what people used to say. That's what they used to think you should speak on and stuff.
Oh my golly. There's two identities I've never wanted, and both are that, social media and or the IT person. I'm always like, computers, what are you talking about? I use it. I use Abacus. Do you think at this point the nomad part of you is a very core piece of your identity? Like, are you not Rachel if you're not also mobile Rachel?
Not for me. That's a fantastic question. And I think some people, the freedom aspect, they wouldn't want to give up. I don't feel like for me that applies, but again, I never set out to be like, an influencer or a YouTuber or a mobile blogger. Like that's not what my goal was. My goal was to see interesting places, eat interesting things, and really maintain the lifestyle I had before, and now I've enhanced it, right? Like I've learned that we spend less money, believe it or not, on the road than we did paying for an expensive condo in Northern Virginia. The rent is less. So right now I'm in Key Largo, Florida. The ocean is right outside my rig, 40 feet away. And I can go outside after this and go take a little break and not look at the cube next to me, right? And so for me, that is an amazing benefit. But I wouldn't say it's like I'm the travel person. I love travel, love. I'll take trips within trips. But it's just something that's suiting our lifestyle right now. And if ever in the future we want a different kind of lifestyle, I think we'll have the courage to try that.
I have a sort of the same question, the opposite side of the equation. Were you ever sorely tempted to not be the Jira person? Did you ever think, oh, I'm just going to cover like homemade jams and, how to cook on a, one burner stove or that kind of baloney? I feel like everyone who's ever been even vaguely successful with blogging and content making makes the mistake of going, I can touch anything now. Did you ever take any of those evil side roads, or did you stay in your lane?
Well, so the reason I picked what I picked is because I loved it. So for me, it wasn't, I'm trading something else for doing this. This is like really what I wanted to do. But it's funny because I can't cook at all. If my partner Chris didn't cook, we would not eat. So there's no hope of me making jam. But I do have a backup plan, right? If the first business failed, I went to college at the same time just in case, right? Second business failed, I'm going to try this instead. So I'm always ready because things never last forever. And I've been very lucky and very thankful and happy to be in the space I'm in, but life changes. And that's something you've just got to plan for and roll with as best you can.
Deb wants to know where in Northern Virginia you are.
Oh, I was in Loudoun County, in the Ashburn Sterling area near Dulles Airport. I grew up there.
And you were like, bye.
Yeah, I don't miss the traffic. I don't miss the expensive parking and greenway and rent.
Now, when did people stop saying in your family, Rachel, when are you coming home? Like, when did they give up on the idea that you were just going to drop this cockamamie remote thing and come home?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't put my finger on when that might have been, but they saw that we were thriving out here. They came and visited, stayed with us, saw all the benefits of just, being in nature, being around, nice people who aren't stressed out all the time, no traffic, So for us, it was, such a super improvement to our lives. I can't imagine still sitting in a condo, even though I was still working from home and it was incredible and I was my own boss and I had my own time schedule. I mean, I can't imagine sitting in an office anymore. I can't imagine putting on a dress to go into an office.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's not a
That'll
good
be
look for
the
me.
Rodney says, are you saying cooking is not your jam?
I wish it was. It's just not.
I'll see myself out.
Thanks for being, our backup Chip Griffin.
Backups for backups.
That's right. So we've learned that today. We also learned, that there's a lot of people who are interested in talking to you. So we have to be nice to at least one of them.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
Of a person of the day that we promote every single episode. And, I always hover over Chip because he always makes me laugh. Just me, though. But I think, I'll give it to our other, our aspiring remote worker, which is Elizabeth, who's working to learn how to be a ship's captain for sailing. And so in her idea, she's going to be in the water doing what you're doing in those RV parks. So, sailing and, parking in all these various, cool piers and slips and all that sort of thing. But if Rodney sticks around another day or so, it's his fault. He's going to end up being the other person today. We've hit the part of the show that we ask you the same question we've asked every guest who's ever been on. Everybody from Sir Mix-a-Lot to Sister Anne Flanagan to Mistress, which one's which?
Either Montana or Harley. So Mistress Montana is the regular dominatrix with dungeons, and Mistress Harley is the one who just says you're a bad person, give me your money, and people do.
Yeah, because our shows interviewed two different dominatrixes, an adult film star and Mexican comedy horror actors. And a nun. And humanitarian clowns. Here's the question. What goes in your backpack? Now, this might be an even more interesting question for someone who lives in a very small space, but this could be something physical, like an avocado. It could be something metaphorical, like hope. Kerry, what's something good physical that could go in a backpack?
Extra set of teeth.
An extra set of teeth.
DJ Cumberbund. I love that one.
Is there anything you can think of for a metaphorical example for Rachel?
Kindness.
Kindness sounds good. I think, people should be kind. That's what I learned that day. Rachel Wright, what goes in your backpack?
Well, it's interesting because, as I said, I'm a minimalist, so not a lot, right? The least I can get away with. So when I go hiking or when I travel, I take one backpack. I don't take suitcases anymore, and I travel really light. I try to get the backpack as light as it can possibly be, and I think I've gotten down to 19 pounds, and that was for the last Atlassian conference, so about a week's worth of stuff. So I'm always trying to reduce that. I'm kind of a gram weenie, as they say in the backpacking world. But for me, preparedness is very important. I've just kind of always been like that. So, I won't go anywhere without that first aid kit. I've got one in the car. I've got one in the back of the rig. Things that other people might need to help. For example, as simple as jumper cables, right? People get stranded all the time in their rigs, and we know how that feels. So we try to always have those emergency supplies to be able to help someone or give them to them. Because we have been on the side of the road more times than I can count. It's just part of life, part of having a car even. You've probably done it. So preparedness, I think, is important to me. Kindness also important. I don't know about the teeth.
You prepared for other people's emergencies. I love it. Deb says, this is my favorite show. Great guest. Oh, she loves you. Everybody just loves you. Just wanted you to know.
And for those who are interested in the sailing lifestyle, a lot of RVers start in an RV and end up in a boat. So I think you get a good taste of what it might be like in a boat if you do RV first. That might be a little easier. I don't see myself going that route, but I have a lot of friends who did it and they're so happy. Take a sailing course, make sure you can understand what you need to do.
Don't forget sunblock. But
do it. There's no time that you're going to be ready, right? There's no perfect time to do this in your life. You just got to try it out and be ready to respond if things don't go the way you like, or maybe you don't enjoy it as much as you thought.
Chip Griffin, getting in the last word, says, I'm worried about jumper cables in the show's backpack collection, giving some of the guests that you just highlighted. And he's not wrong.
They charge extra for that just before you hit them up.
I will say this, that my oh, you were? No. My grandmother was someone who had that idea of doing some RV camping. And there was one thing that really held her back from being able to do it. It's not that far off from what Carol said. She had to drag around, but what my Grammy would have wanted to have in the RV that wouldn't.
But she wanted the tub to make moonshine. It's totally different.
It's a different